The sky above Aurelia 4 shimmered with silver clouds when the human ship entered the atmosphere. The alien colony below watched the small craft descending like a falling star. Most of them had never seen an Earthling in their entire lives. And those who had never took humans seriously. Ethan Ward stepped out of the ship slowly, his boots touching the crystal blue ground. He was calm, quiet, and carried only one metallic case in his right hand. His face showed no fear, even though dozens of alien women stood around him, staring, whispering, and laughing. The women of Aurelia 4 were tall, strong, and elegant, with glowing markings across their skin. They believed their species was the strongest in the sector. To them, a human looked soft, small, and weak. One alien woman nudged her friend. "Look at him. Is this the famous Earth mechanic? He looks like he cannot even lift his own bag." Another giggled. Humans always arrive with big words, but small skills. A few more gathered around Ethan, circling him like curious predators. Ethan did not react. He continued walking toward the central platform where he had been called for work. He had traveled across systems repairing machines no one else could fix. But he never bragged about his abilities. Today would be no different, but the aliens were in a playful mood. The colony guard captain, Sarana, stepped in front of him. She was nearly a head taller, with sharp purple eyes. "Human," she said loudly so everyone could hear. "Our mining core is broken. Are you sure you can fix something that even our warriors cannot move?" Ethan simply nodded. "Yes." Sarana raised a brow. "Just yes. No explanation. No promises." Ethan adjusted his grip on the metallic case. "I don't make promises. I only work." The aliens laughed even harder. To them, this human sounded overly confident. They followed him as he walked to the center of the worksite. The ground vibrated lightly under their feet, evidence of the huge power running through the mining chambers deep below. Lyra, another alien woman with soft silver markings across her arms, watched Ethan with mixed curiosity and doubt. She whispered to Sarana, "Why do they send such small creatures to do impossible tasks?" "Humans like to pretend they are special," Sarana replied. "Let him fail. We will fix it later." But Ethan did not hear their voices. His mind was focused, silent, steady. When he reached the platform, he placed the metallic case on the ground. The aliens stopped laughing. Their eyes followed his hands as he tapped a short code on the side. Panel, beep, beep, click. The case unlocked with a glowing blue line across its surface. A soft humming sound rose from inside. The aliens leaned closer, expecting to see some fragile human tool. But when Ethan lifted the lid, their laughter vanished instantly. Inside the case rested a massive, futuristic device, long, heavy, and filled with glowing gravity coils. It did not look like a tool. It looked like a weapon made for war. Silver tendrils of energy wrapped around its core as if the machine was breathing. Lyra gasped softly. What is that?" Ethan spoke without expression. "A gravity warp extractor. I built it." Most of the alien women stared as if they were seeing something impossible. No human should have been able to carry something so powerful alone. The machine was large, dense, and extremely advanced, yet Ethan held it like it was nothing more than a toolbox. Sarana's throat tightened. She stepped back, shocked. "A human built this, that is not possible." Ethan lowered the device gently onto the ground. "You called me for work. I'm starting." The aliens exchanged nervous looks. Their arrogance melted into confusion and disbelief. To test him, Sarana pointed at a giant ore block sitting near the chamber entrance. The stone was so hard that 3 alien warriors had failed to break it. "If your human weapon is real," she said, "cut that." Ethan activated the extractor. A deep vibration echoed in the air. The ground beneath them trembled softly. Blue energy pulsed through the device. Ethan took one slow step forward and aimed at the unmatched ore. The aliens held their breath. A bright blue beam fired. A sharp wave cracked the air. The ore block was sliced clean and half smooth, as glass-like it was nothing more than butter. The aliens jumped back, shock spreading through them. Even Sarana stumbled. Lyra's eyes widened with awe. This cannot be real. Lyra whispered. A human did this? Ethan powered down the device. The sudden silence felt heavy. The alien women looked at him not with mockery anymore, but with fear, curiosity, and a strange new respect. Ethan turned toward them calmly. I told you. I work. Sarana swallowed hard. No one laughed anymore. No one mocked him. No one dared speak. Finally, Lyra stepped forward, her voice soft but shaking. Ethan Ward. What else can your weapon do? Ethan closed the metallic case halfway, letting the glowing coils reflect in their eyes. He looked straight at them. You'll see. And with those two quiet words, the colony realized this human was nothing like the stories. This one was different, stronger, more dangerous, and far beyond anything they had ever expected. The silence around Ethan Ward felt heavier than the metal ground beneath their feet. Only moments ago, the alien women were laughing at him. Now, they stood frozen, their eyes locked on the ore block Ethan had sliced clean in half. For a species that believed they were the strongest in the system, seeing a human casually hold a gravity weapon was not just shocking. It was frightening. Ethan didn't seem affected by the attention. He lifted the gravity warp extractor again with one hand, as if it weighed nothing. To him, the tool was familiar. To the aliens, it looked like something only a war titan could carry. Sarana, the guard captain, forced herself to speak. Human? How did you do that? That ore is used to build our battleships. Even our plasma rifles cannot break it. Ethan didn't look at her. Wrong technique. Sarana blinked. Wrong technique. That is all. Ethan nodded. Tools don't matter. Hands matter. The alien women exchanged confused looks. No one understood how a creature who looked so simple could speak with such confidence. No one had ever dared to say their advanced weapons had wrong techniques. Lyra, the alien with the silver markings, stepped closer. Her curious eyes traveled from Ethan's calm face to the glowing extractor. Can you show us more? She asked softly. Ethan paused. If you want a demonstration, step back. The aliens immediately obeyed, moving behind the safety line. Ethan raised the extractor and pointed it at a cluster of large boulders on the far end of the site. The air vibrated again, humming like a heartbeat. Blue energy slowly wrapped around the weapon's coils. Then a sudden blast. A wave of warped gravity shot out, swirling the dust on the ground. The first boulder cracked. The second shattered. The third lifted from the ground and slammed onto the platform as if an invisible hand had grabbed it. The aliens gasped. Some stumbled backward. Lyra covered her mouth in shock. Sarana's jaw dropped open as she whispered, "What kind of human carries a device that bends the ground?" Ethan powered down the extractor with the same calmness he used to open a door. "This is low power," he said. "High power is louder." He didn't explain further. Sarana shook her head slowly. "And you expect us to believe that you built this alone?" "Yes," Ethan replied. "But how?" She demanded. Ethan shrugged. "I had free time. Free time, free time." The alien women stared at him as if he had said he built a starship for fun. Something about Ethan's simple, relaxed tone only made him seem more mysterious and more dangerous. If he could build something like this casually, what else could he do? Lyra stepped forward again, this time with less doubt and more respect. "Ethan Ward, your strength is not normal for a human. You carry this tool as if it's weightless. It's heavy, Ethan corrected, but I trained for it. Serana frowned. Trained? How? Ethan finally looked her in the eyes. Humans don't grow strong by birth. We grow strong by choice. The words hit Serana harder than the extractor's blast. Aurelians were born powerful. They didn't have to work for it. But Ethan, he was built through effort. And that made him unpredictable. Before anyone could react further, the ground beneath them shook violently. The vibration was stronger than the extractor's hum. The entire platform trembled. Dust rose in the air. A deep rumbling growl echoed from beneath the mining site. The aliens froze. Lyra's eyes widened in fear. That sound. It came from the tunnels. A shadow moved under the ground, long, fast, and heavy. Serana's face went pale. No, it can't be awake. The burrower was sealed years ago. Ethan tightened his grip on the extractor. What's a burrower? Lyra stepped back, her voice trembling. A monster, she whispered. A huge creature that lives under the ground. It eats metal. It breaks machines. We sealed its nest after it destroyed half our colony. The ground shook again, even harder. A massive crack opened near the mining chamber. Dust shot into the air. Screams echoed from the workers nearby. Serana shouted, "Everyone fall back. Protect the colony." The alien women ran. But Ethan did not move. He stared at the crack calmly, as if studying it. Lyra saw him standing alone and called out, "Ethan, come with us. You don't know what's coming." Ethan raised the extractor slowly. "I'm about to learn." A thunderous roar erupted from underground, and in that moment, the aliens realized something terrifying. The human wasn't running. He was preparing. The roar from beneath the mining ground rolled across the valley like thunder trapped inside stone. Dust poured from the cracks, and the metallic floor groaned under the alien colony's feet. Panic broke instantly. Workers screamed. Tools dropped. The once confident alien women who mocked Ethan only minutes earlier now rushed backward with fear in their eyes. Ethan Ward, however, stayed still. He stood at the edge of the widening crack, the gravity warp extractor glowing faintly in his hands. He watched quietly as shadows twisted below, shifting like something alive and angry. Lyra grabbed Serana's arm, her voice shaking. It woke up because of the extractor's vibration. The burrower feels every sound in the metal tunnels. Serana clenched her jaw. Then we must evacuate. But as she turned to order a retreat, she froze. Ethan wasn't moving. Instead, he stepped closer. Lyra's breath caught. "Ethan, what are you doing?" "You have no idea what that creature is." Ethan answered softly, "I'll find out soon." Before they could stop him, the crack burst wide open. A massive shape erupted from the underground, throwing shards of metal and stone into the air. The creature was enormous, long, like a serpent, but armored like a living drill. Its body glowed with molten cracks, and its 4 black eyes locked onto the first site above ground. The human Serana shouted, "Burrower! Fall back. That thing can crush you in seconds." The burrower's jaw split open into 3 curved blades. It screeched, a sound so sharp it shook the walls of the colony. Ethan stared at it without blinking. If he felt fear, he didn't show it. Lyra stood frozen in disbelief. No human should be standing in front of that monster. No alien would have dared. The burrower lunged. Its massive head shot forward like a metallic hammer. Ethan rolled to the side, the ground cracking from the impact. With the speed of someone who had trained for survival, Ethan jumped onto a broken pipe and raised the extractor. A bright blue wave shot out. It slammed into the burrower's side, but instead of slicing it, The energy rippled across the creature's armor and faded away. The aliens gasped. Sirana shouted, "Ethan!" Its body absorbs energy. You can't break it like stone. The burrower roared and turned toward Ethan again. This time it swung its tail, which smashed a nearby platform into pieces. The shock knocked Ethan off balance. He dropped to one knee, but he held onto the extractor tightly. Lyra called out desperately, "Ethan, stop. It will kill you." Our best warriors couldn't defeat it. Ethan stood again. His voice was calm, even now. Then they didn't try hard enough. The burrower lunged a second time, jaws wide. Ethan activated the extractor again, but aimed lower. Instead of hitting the armor, he hit the ground beneath the creature, warping the metal plates into a sharp spike. The burrower slammed down, and the twisted metal stabbed into its underside. The creature screeched in pain. Sirana's eyes widened in shock. He found its weak point. In seconds. Lyra whispered, "Humans are terrifying." The burrower thrashed violently, tail smashing through walls. Ethan kept moving, dodging debris, sliding under fallen beams, using the broken metal around him as traps. The aliens watched in disbelief as the small human maneuvered like a trained predator. But the creature was still too strong. It broke free of the metal spike and slammed its head into the ground, sending a shockwave that knocked Ethan off his feet. His body hit the ground hard. The extractor skidded across the platform, far out of reach. Lyra screamed, "Ethan!" He groaned and forced himself to sit up. But before he could stand, the burrower turned toward him, jaws dripping with molten heat. It lowered itself, preparing to crush him. The alien women stood frozen. No one moved. No one breathed. No one could save him in time. Lyra felt her chest tighten. A human they mocked. A human they laughed at. Was about to die saving their colony. The burrower lunged straight at Ethan. And Ethan reacted in the most human way possible. He looked around. He saw pipes, loose metal rods, broken machinery, a fuel cell leaking energy, and in 1 second, one fast, brilliant second, he made a plan. He jumped toward the fuel cell, ripped its power conduit, and threw the sparking coil into the burrower's open jaw. The creature bit down Craig. A massive burst of electricity exploded inside its mouth. The burrower shrieked violently and crashed back. Thrashing in pain, Ethan slowly stood, breathing hard. Sirana whispered, "He stunned it." Lyra stepped forward, eyes filled with awe. This human isn't normal? The burrower, wounded but not defeated, pulled itself deeper into the chamber, retreating into the shadows. Everyone stared as Ethan picked up his extractor again. He wiped dust from his forehead and said quietly, "It's not dead. It will be back." And for the first time in their lives, the proud alien women felt safer with a human standing in front of them. Asterisk. The air inside the mining chamber grew hot and heavy after the burrower vanished into the dark tunnels. The metallic ground still shook in small tremors, a warning that the monster was not only waiting. The alien women formed a loose circle around Ethan, their expressions a mix of fear, disbelief, and something new. Respect. Sirana's voice was stiff. "Human, you are injured." Ethan glanced down at the cut across his arm. It was bleeding, but he didn't seem bothered. "It's nothing," he said simply. Lyra stepped forward, her silver markings glowing softly. "You just fought a creature our strongest hunters feared. You should rest." "No," Ethan replied. "If it returns, resting will get us all killed." His tone was quiet, but every alien felt the weight behind it. He wasn't being arrogant, he was being realistic. Deep inside the tunnels, the burrower screamed again. The ground trembled harder. Dust fell from the ceiling. Sirana grabbed her spear-like weapon. Everyone prepare. It's coming back. But Ethan lifted his hand. Don't stand near me. Spread out. If it targets one group, more will die. This confused them. Why was a human giving instructions? Why were they listening? But his calm authority made it impossible to argue. The alien warriors spread out around the chamber, eyes locked on every shadow. Ethan tightened his grip on the gravity warp extractor. He adjusted the settings, turning a dial slowly. The weapon hummed deeper, louder. More dangerous? What are you doing? Lyra asked, using high power. Ethan said. Sira Na gasped. High power could break the entire chamber. Good, Ethan replied. If we don't stop the creature here, it will reach your city. Before she could protest further, the ground beneath Ethan exploded. Boom. The burrower burst upward, faster and angrier than before. Its armored head shot toward Ethan, jaws wide like a steel cage. Ethan dove sideways. The monster's jaw snapped shut inches from his leg, creating a shockwave that shattered the floor tiles. Ethan rolled across the ground, his arm burning with pain. But he got back onto his feet immediately. The burrower turned on him again. Roaring dot, Ethan fired. A massive burst of blue energy slammed into the creature's side. This time, the extractor didn't fade out. Instead, the beam tore through several layers of the burrower's armor plates. Molten shards of metal flew everywhere. The alien women jumped back in shock. Lyra gasped. That was only one shot. Ethan didn't answer. He was already moving, but the burrower lunged again, its tail whipping around with deadly force. The strike hit Ethan square in the chest, throwing him across the chamber. He crashed into a pile of broken machinery, the sound echoing painfully. Lyra's heart dropped. Ethan. He coughed, pushing himself onto his knees. Blood ran from the side of his face, but he stood up again. His legs shook, but his eyes stayed focused. The burrower screeched and charged toward him. Ethan grabbed a heavy metal beam from the wreckage and slammed it against a wall. The vibration echoed through the chamber. The burrower changed direction instantly. It followed the strongest sound. Ethan smirked slightly. You're predictable. He slammed the beam again, luring the creature toward a large crane hanging above. With perfect timing, he fired the extractor at the crane's support beam. Crack! The crane snapped loose and fell straight down onto the burrower's back, pinning part of its body. But the creature was still too strong. It thrashed violently, lifting the crane off the ground. Ethan had only seconds. Lyra shouted, Ethan, get away. You can't stop it alone. Ethan didn't listen. He sprinted toward the pinned burrower, leaped onto the fallen crane, and ran toward its head. Sarana couldn't believe what she was seeing. This human is insane. She whispered. Ethan reached the creature's head and pressed the extractor directly against one of its glowing facial seams. High power. Second charge, he muttered. The extractor hummed intensely. The burrower tried to shake him off, but Ethan held on with one arm, gripping the crane cable tightly. Then, Kathum. A blinding burst of energy exploded. The beam tore through the burrower's faceplate, cutting a deep wound across its head. The monster shrieked so loudly the walls cracked. Its entire body convulsed, smashing against the ground. The aliens shielded their eyes from the bright flash. When the light faded, Ethan dropped onto the ground, landing hard on his shoulder. He groaned, pain shooting through his body. But he forced himself to stand again. The burrower lay on its side, twitching weakly but still alive. Lyra rushed to Ethan, grabbing his arm. Stop, you're badly hurt. Ethan's breath was heavy. His body shook. But his voice was steady. It's not done yet. Sarana stared at him with wide, stunned eyes. Who was this human? And why was he still fighting when anyone else would have given up? The burrower's wounded body twitched slowly, its molten cracks dimming with every breath. The mining chamber smelled like hot metal and dust. The alien women stayed silent, their eyes on the human who stood bloody, bruised, shaking but still refusing to fall. Ethan Ward steadied himself with one hand on the extractor. His knees trembled, but his posture stayed straight. He had fought with everything he had. Not for glory, not for praise, but because people were in danger. Lyra gently held his injured arm. "Sit down. You can't stand any longer." Ethan pulled away softly. "I can stand." But the truth was obvious. His steps wobbled. His breaths grew shallow. He looked like a man carrying 3 planets on his shoulders. Serana, the once proud guard captain who mocked him earlier, slowly walked forward. Her expression was no longer cold or arrogant. It carried shock and admiration. "Human," Serana said quietly, "you saved our colony." Ethan shook his head. "Not yet." She frowned. "The burrower is almost dead. It cannot fight again." Ethan looked at the creature, studying its movements. "It's not dying," he said. "It's adapting." Those words made every alien freeze. Lyra stared at Ethan with wide eyes. "Adapting, you mean?" "It is learning from the attacks." Ethan nodded. "Every creature evolves in battle. This one is no different." A few aliens took a step back in fear. Serana whispered, "Then, why does it stay still?" Ethan wiped blood from his forehead. "It's waiting, recovering. If we don't prepare, it will return." The room turned cold. The alien warriors who once laughed at Ethan now looked at him like he was the only stable pillar in a collapsing world. For the first time on Aurelia 4, they felt small, and the human felt enormous. A shift in the colony outside the chamber. Workers gathered near the entrance. They had heard the screams, the explosions, the metal breaking. None expected to see Ethan walk out alive. When he stepped into the open space, limping but steady, silence fell over the crowd. Young alien girls who once giggled at his size now watched him with shining eyes. Older warriors lowered their weapons in respect. Mechanics stepped aside, giving him space. People bowed their heads as he passed. Lyra walked beside him, keeping one hand under his arm to support him. Ethan didn't protest this time. He was too weak to hide it. A small alien child tugged on Ethan's sleeve. "Mr. Human, are you a hero?" Ethan blinked slowly. "No, I'm just working." Serana leaned closer and whispered to the child, "He is a hero." Ethan pretended not to hear. Inside the healing chamber, Lyra guided Ethan into a circular room filled with soft blue lights and warm air. This was the healing chamber used for high-ranking Aurelian warriors. Giving it to a human was unheard of. Lyra pressed a panel, and the room filled with gentle energy waves that soothed wounds. Ethan winced as the healing began. Lyra's eyes softened. "You don't understand," she said quietly. "Our people don't respect easily. We respect strength. And today, you showed strength in a way none of us ever saw before." Ethan closed his eyes. "Strength doesn't matter. Results do." Lyra tilted her head. "Why do you always talk like that?" "Because it's true." She studied his face for a long moment. His calmness unsettled her not because it felt cold, but because it felt earned. Ethan Ward was not pretending. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. His confidence came from surviving things he didn't talk about. Lyra finally whispered, "We were wrong about you." Ethan sighed. "People usually are." Serana entered the chamber quietly. She held her spear at her side, but her posture bent slightly, a sign of respect. "Human," she said, "the council wants to meet you." Ethan opened his eyes. Why? Because you did what we could not. You faced a monster and lived. You protected our colony. You earned honor. Ethan frowned. I didn't come here for honor. Sarana nodded. That is why you deserve it. Ethan looked confused, but didn't argue. Lyra stepped forward. Her voice was softer than ever. You don't have to fight alone anymore. You have us? Ethan stared at her for a moment. Then he looked away. I'm used to being alone. Lyra smiled faintly. Not here. Outside the chamber, word spread fast across Aurelia 4. The human who arrived alone. The human who carried an impossible weapon. The human who fought the burrower. The human who stood when even warriors fell. Ethan Ward had become something no one expected. A symbol of strength. A protector. A mystery. A man they now trusted more than anyone, and somewhere deep underground. The burrower opened its 4 eyes again. This battle wasn't over, but the aliens knew one thing clearly. They didn't want to face the monster without Ethan Ward. Asterisk. The healing chamber's blue light dimmed as Ethan's wounds slowly mended. He sat quietly, eyes half closed, his hands resting on the gravity warp extractor beside him. The machine hummed softly like a sleeping beast. Lyra sat across from him, watching him with a mix of curiosity and quiet admiration. She had never met a creature like him. A human who faced a titan and lived. A human who spoke little, but whose silence felt stronger than their loudest warriors. Lyra finally asked the question they were all afraid to ask. Ethan. This weapon of yours, how did you build it? Ethan opened his eyes slowly. It's not a weapon, he said. It's a tool. Lyra frowned. A tool that cuts through battleship, or a tool that can break a monster's armor. Ethan looked at it, running his fingers over the metal surface. It wasn't made for fighting. It was made for mining on dead worlds. Worlds humans tried to rebuild. His voice grew distant, almost heavy with memories he didn't share. Lyra leaned forward. Then why is it so powerful? Ethan hesitated, then whispered, because humans were tired of losing. Lyra felt a chill run through her. Losing? What? Ethan didn't answer. Before she could push further, the door slid open with a loud hiss. A tall, intimidating alien male warrior stepped inside the first male Ethan had seen since arriving on Aurelia 4. His armor gleamed black, and his eyes burned with jealousy. This was Ravik, commander of the Outer Defense Squads. Known for his pride and temper, he glared at Ethan like a fire aimed at dry wood. So, Ravik said coldly, "This is the human everyone praises." Lyra immediately stepped between them. "Ravik, don't start." But Ravik pushed past her easily. His eyes stayed locked on Ethan. "I heard you fought the burrower," Ravik said. "And now everyone treats you like some kind of champion." Ethan sighed. He didn't have the energy for this. "I didn't ask for that," Ravik scoffed. "Of course you didn't. Weak creatures never ask for praise, they just steal it by accident." Lyra's anger flared. He saved the colony. Ravik? Ravik ignored her. He stepped closer to Ethan. "You don't belong here, human. Don't mistake our fear for respect." Ethan stood quietly, his face calm. "I don't care what you think." That answer struck Ravik harder than any punch. Ravik growled. "Then fight me, here now. If you win, I'll accept your presence. If you lose, you leave the colony." Lyra grabbed Ravik's arm. "Stop, he's injured." Ethan picked up the extractor and leaned on it slightly. "I'm not fighting you," Ravik laughed harshly. "Afraid?" Ethan looked him in the eyes, calm, cold, unshaken. "No, I just don't fight people who aren't trying to kill anyone." That sentence hit Ravik like a blade. Lyra stepped closer to Ethan, placing a hand on his shoulder. Ignore him, Ethan. He only wants attention. But Ravik wasn't done. He pointed at the extractor. You hide behind that machine. Without it, you're nothing. Ethan finally spoke with firmness. I built this. I don't hide behind something I created. Lyra turned to Ravik. Why are you jealous? Because a human did what you and your soldiers couldn't. Ravik's face twisted in rage. The council wants to meet this outsider, he snapped. They even want to give him a medal. A medal that should be mine. Lyra shook her head. You never fought the burrower, Ravik snarled. Because I wasn't here. If I were, this tiny creature wouldn't be standing. Ethan stared at him, studying his posture, his anger, his pride. He recognized something familiar. Not strength, but insecurity. Ethan spoke quietly. You want to prove something? Prove it against the burrower. Not me. Ravik froze. Lyra's eyes widened. Because Ethan was right. Ravik clenched his fists. Suddenly, the ground trembled. A deep, distant roar echoed through the mining tunnels. Lyra gasped. It's awake again. Ravik turned pale. That should be impossible. It took too much damage. Ethan moved toward the door immediately. It recovered faster than expected. Lyra grabbed his arm. Ethan, you're still hurt. Ethan looked at her with steady eyes. So is it? That's why we need to move now. Ravik watched. Stunned as Ethan bloodied, exhausted. Barely healed walked toward danger without hesitation. Lyra looked back at Ravik and said quietly, Strength isn't in height or armor. It's in heart. And Ethan's heart is bigger than yours. Ravik had no answer as Ethan stepped into the dim hallway. The lights flickered with the burrower's returning rumble. Lyra hurried beside him. Ethan, what's your plan? Ethan raised the extractor. To end this. The warning sirens echoed through the metal corridors of Aurelia 4 as the ground rumbled again. The burrower wasn't dead. It wasn't defeated. It was angry. Ethan Ward walked forward despite the pain burning in his chest. His wounds were still fresh. Every step felt like stepping on broken glass. But he didn't slow down. The gravity warp extractor glowed faintly in his grip, ready for one final battle. Behind him, Lyra ran to keep up. Ethan, wait. You can't fight like this. You'll die. Ethan kept walking. If I don't stop it now, everyone dies. Lyra's voice cracked. But you don't have to do it alone anymore. Ethan paused for half a heartbeat, a rare moment where he let her words reach him. But before he could answer, Ravik rushed from the opposite hallway, armored and breathless. His face was pale. Fear visible even through the warrior pride. He looked at Ethan, really looked at him and saw not a weak creature, but a man made of iron will. Ravik swallowed hard. Human, I was wrong. Let me fight with you. Ethan didn't stop walking. No, I need you to protect the colony. Ravik frowned. But Ethan turned slightly, eyes cold and focused. You want to prove your strength? Then keep them safe. That's your job. Ravik lowered his head an alien gesture of humility. Yes, Ethan Ward. Lyra stared at Ethan with awe. Somehow, without trying, he had earned the respect of the proudest warrior in the colony. The final descent the tunnels grew hotter as they moved deeper. The metal walls vibrated with the burrower's breath. The creature's glow lit the passage with orange cracks. Ethan marched ahead, adjusting the extractor settings. Lyra watched him carefully. What are you doing? Ethan's voice was low. Overcharge mode. I never use it. Lyra blinked. Why? Because it destroys the weapon. And you. Ethan didn't answer. Her heart tightened. He was ready to die if needed. The burrower rises again. The tunnel floor exploded. Dust and fire filled the air. The burrower shot up like a living mountain of molten metal, screeching with rage. Lyra fell back, shielding her face. But Ethan stood firm. The creature roared so loudly the tunnels shook. Its eyes burned with fury. Its armored plates glowed with heat. It was bigger than before, angrier, faster. Desperate, Ethan raised the extractor. The burrower lunged. A massive tail whipped toward him. Ethan dodged, barely. The tail smashed a wall, causing metal shards to rain down. Lyra screamed, "Ethan, move!" But he already had. He fired the extractor straight into one of the burrower's facial seams. Boom! A huge beam of warped energy exploded against the creature's head. The tunnel lit up in bright blue light. The monster writhed, shrieking in pain, but did not fall. It rammed Ethan with full force. He flew backward, smashing into the wall. Lyra gasped as Ethan collapsed to the ground. Ethan, get up." He pushed himself up, coughing blood but still alive. The burrower dragged itself toward him. Jaws opening. Ethan's grip tightened on the extractor. His voice was soft but firm. "This ends." Now, the last shot. Ethan staggered to his feet. He knew the overcharge would destroy the extractor, maybe even the tunnel. But he had no other choice. He pressed two hidden switches. The extractor screamed with energy, glowing brightest it ever had. Sparks flew out. The weapon became almost too hot to hold. Lyra cried, "Ethan, stop. You'll die." Ethan looked back at her with a calm she had never seen before. "If I die, make sure no one else does." The burrower roared and charged at him. Ethan charged back. Both collided in a blast of light. Ethan jumped, landing on the monster's head, and pressed the extractor deep into the largest seam. He shouted one final command, overcharge full. Kawaya Thum. A massive explosion of blue energy tore through the tunnel. The burrower's armor cracked. Its plates shattered. Its entire body glowed, then collapsed. The creature fell like a dying star. Ethan was thrown across the tunnel. The extractor broke apart into molten pieces. Silence fell. Dust drifted slowly through the air. Lyra ran to him, panic in her eyes. Ethan, stay with me." He lay on the ground, breathing faintly. His voice was weak. "It's over." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "You idiot. You saved us again." He tried to smile. Habit. The colony's guardian. Hours later, Ethan woke in the healing chamber again. The room was filled Sarana, Ravik, mechanics, workers, even alien children. When he tried to sit up, everyone stepped forward at once. Sarana spoke first. "Ethan Ward, you are no outsider. You are our guardian." Ravik placed his spear at Ethan's feet, a sign of highest honor. "You earned more than respect. You earned loyalty." Lyra stood closest, her voice soft and full of emotion. "You came here alone. But now you are not alone anymore." Ethan looked at all of them, confusion and surprise mixed in his tired eyes. Lyra reached out, taking his hand gently. "Never judge strength by size," she whispered. "You've taught us that." Ethan finally allowed himself to smile just a little. A human, once mocked, now stood as the protector of an entire alien colony. And the aliens? They would never look at humans the same way again.